Yo, check it out, man. Got my new Stetson right here. Right here. Just got it. This is a Stetson Forex Buffalo felt. Buffalo. Very cool. All right, what's going on, everybody? Yeah, we had a nice day again today. Even with these last couple of days, we're way below where the market should be. And I do think that by mid-November, you're going to see much higher levels. But anyway, that's what I said was going to happen. We're recovering. We pretty much recovered nearly all of the September tax drain. No tax drains anymore in the near future. That'll be like mid-December. But so the rest of this month, it's mostly over. Well, we got a week left. And then we have November with a quarterly interest payment. It's going to be like $45 billion. November's going to be a big month. So that's that. Now, here's the thing, folks. You get these people who attack MMT, and all of these arguments, at least every one that I have seen, these are these straw man arguments. These arguments that, they set them up and they knock them down, very simplistic, and they misrepresent MMT. Most of these people have, I guarantee you, and it's obvious to me, most of these people have never read any of the academic work of MMT, and so their arguments are extremely flawed, they're wrong, they're specious. They're just silly. They're silly, man. And we have another one here that I saw from this guy. His name is Robin Brooks. There he is. Actually, this guy, Robin Brooks, was a former Forex FX strategist for Goldman Sachs. High position. Very high position. If I remember correctly, and I don't like to attack people, but if you're going to go after MMT in a way like this that is so superficial and ridiculous and really just completely mischaracterizes it, leaves out the principal tenets of the classic straw man argument. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna attack the guy. First of all, he looks like a doofus. All right. Second of all, like I said, I think at one time he was chief for FX strategist for Goldman Sachs. That's a high position, folks. You think he was a managing director? That is a high position. But if I also remember correctly, I'm going to try to look this up. I didn't have time today, but I do recall, pretty sure, that he was the subject of like numerous posts on the blog Zero Hedge as like the best contrary indicator when it came to the Forex market and Forex trends. Now, I don't like to attack, market forecasters. We can all get it wrong from time to time. But again, he's going after, come on, I think, I don't know if he was let go from Goldman Sachs. I don't know if he decided to move on. By the way, he's at some outfit now called the Institute for International Finance. I never heard of that. It doesn't mean it's an unimportant institute. I just never heard of it. I've been around, for over 40 years on Wall Street, basically. I've been a member of 4 exchanges. I don't know. That may not mean anything. Who am I? But I'm just saying, you go from Goldman Sachs, you would think you stay at Goldman Sachs. But the fact that he was kind of made fun of in Zero Hedge on a regular basis, and then he moved on from Goldman Sachs. I don't know. I'm just speculating here. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. The point is, What I want to talk about is his attack of MMC, his criticism of MMT. And he put this thing up on his Twitter feed last week. And he's like, oh, so MMT says that central banks can control interest rates, but look at what happened to the yen. So I'm like, yeah, okay. I mean, first of all, MMT proponents have always said that, exchange rates float. And, that's by design. I mean, the world went to a floating system precisely because in the past, prior to, the way it runs now with floating exchange rates, when things were fixed to gold, when there was a gold standard or fixed exchange rates to the dollar, those systems blew up. Stress built up on those systems and they ended up falling apart. The whole reason why the world went to floating exchange rates, which MMT explains, is that it's like a pressure relief valve, okay? It gives back fiscal and monetary autonomy to the countries that allow their exchange rates to float. In other words, they're allowed to conduct their own fiscal policy, their own monetary policy, and the exchange rate of the currency will adjust to wherever it needs to adjust based on those policies, okay? Also, there's trade policy involved there. So you got fiscal policy, you have monetary policy, you have trade policy, all autonomous to the nation in question. They allow their currency to float, and presumably they're fine with that. MMT recognizes that. MMT also states, as Mr. Brooks admits, that the central bank can target interest rates. It is the monopolist in that regard. And so he admits that, but then he says somehow it's a failing of MMT because look at what happened to the yen. We never said, the MMT community never said that exchange rates have to be targeted at a certain level. It was all about free floating FX. So the argument to me is extremely childish. It's not even just ignorant. It's childish because here's the thing. If you embrace if you don't like floating exchange rates, okay, if it bothers you that now the yen is falling, then the country very simply can reconfigure its policy to one where it fixes the exchange rate to something like gold or another currency, and then it simply gives up its monetary, fiscal, and maybe trade autonomy. I mean, you have a choice. You can't have both things. If you embrace or if you accept floating exchange rates for the benefit of having autonomy when it comes to fiscal and monetary and trade policy, then let the exchange rate float. Let it go where it needs to go. Like I said, it's like a pressure valve, and it'll reach a new equilibrium level, and that's fine. And by the way, if you look at a long-term history of the dollar yen, okay, even with the dollar yen now at, what is it, like 151, 153, I don't even know. I mean, in the 80s, it was 456 yen to the dollar. It was 400, almost 500 yen to the dollar. So now, okay, it popped up from, let's say, 100 yen. Now we're at 150. Yeah, that's a big move in like a compressed time frame. If you want to look at it from like the last, I don't know what, couple of years, 2, 3, 5 years, 8 years, if you even want to go back 8 years. But if you look over the long history, the yen is still very strong compared to where it was in the 80s or the late 70s or the 80s. I remember trading the yen when it was like 400 to the dollar. Okay, so I mean, Why are you getting so hysterical? Why are you crying and whining? Look, that's childish to me. If a country goes with floating exchange rates because it wants to have autonomy over its fiscal and monetary and trade policy, then it should have no problem with the fact that exchange rates float. Now, if policymakers, if they get all hot and bothered by that, then that's their problem, and they're being, unreasonable too, or I could even say childish like Mr. Brooks is, because it's like you cannot have both things. If you don't want your currency to float, you could do like Saudi Arabia does, all right, where they fix it to the dollar. Other countries do that too. You can do that. And then you give up monetary and fiscal autonomy. It's a choice. This is a very, very childish thing. It's like a kid who, he wants his cake and eat it too. That kind of thing. It's just like you have to accept one regime or the other. One regime being floating exchange rates and autonomous fiscal and monetary policy, or fixed exchange rates. If you don't like your currency to float, you fix it to something like going on a gold standard, the way it used to be a long time ago. Okay? And then your ability to stimulate the economy or whatever will either depend on how much gold you have or how much of somebody else's currency you have. I don't get it. This guy obviously is I think he went to Yale even, okay? Ivy League school, very educated. It goes back to something I talked about in a prior video when I say, and here's a classic example, folks. This is a classic example. These guys are highly, highly educated. Yale, he went to Yale. And it's like, MMT, where are you guys defending? By the way, I did defend it. I tweeted back, several different things I tweeted back. I said, first of all, MMT accepts the notion of floating exchange rates. We understand what that means. And, it's apart from what we talk about in terms of a currency issuer and its ability to set rates in its own currency without question. Okay? This is a stupid straw man argument. Okay, that's number one. That's the first thing I wanted to talk about. The second thing I wanted to talk about is what is with all this negativity? Man, when I go and look, there's so much there's some scary negativity too. Let's face it. There's right now, they're talking about the possibility of a dirty bomb or a nuke being used in Ukraine as a false flag to get the United States directly involved in a hot war with Russia. That is a serious, sick and frightening thing. But let's leave that aside for now. I'm going to talk economics. What is with all the freaking negativity? Here is an example right here. Hang on. Here is an example right here. This kid, Graham Stephan, he's got a very big YouTube channel. I don't know if you follow him. Young kid, looks like a nice kid. Supposedly dabbles, or he's in real estate, has done very well for himself with, single family homes and stuff like that. But he posts up this thing on Twitter like everything is negative. It's like, have you seen this stuff? Like negative. Like, thank you for giving me all that negative information. Like what am I supposed to do with that? Like go, build a bunker and hide out in it? If you can do that, I can't do that. All right? If you could do that, and if you want to do that, if you want to go build an underground bunker now, somewhere, because of all this negativity, and go down in there and just shut yourself in and live in that, then go for it, man. I know a good place to do that too is where I was out in May out in West Texas. Actually, I want to buy a piece of land out there. It's really cool. Desolate, nothing out there. No water, no food, no electricity, no internet, no nothing. You got to get your water from a rain catchment system. That's the only way. This is a young kid, and it's not just, I don't want to attack just this kid. There's another guy on Twitter. Every day I see his post. This is the worst bond market in history. This is the biggest decline of the stock market, whatever. This is the most horrible thing, Look at how terrible, I mean, how can you live like that? How can you fucking live like that? Like, kill yourself already. It's just horrible, the worst. I have not seen this guy in over a year post up anything positive. Every single day, this barrage of negativity. Like, this is the worst thing, the bond market down, the worst in history. This is... What is going on? Like, I always try to tell you guys, when it comes to economics, when it comes to... understanding these concepts, there's two sides to everything. It's like creditors, debtors, assets, liabilities. Price increases, somebody loses, somebody wins. It's always like that. It's a balance. It's a yin-yang, man. People going through life like just post, this is horrible, this is tough. Just kill yourself already. Kill yourself already. Like, I don't understand. Like, why? And this is a young kid. And he's telling, have you seen this? This is negative. This is down. This is horrible. This is awful. This is terrible. Is that valuable? I'm asking you, like, honestly, I just want to know. Maybe it's me who's screwed up. I don't know. Is this, and listen, I'm not, what is it? Pollyanna? Cassandra's the sky is falling. No, I'm not Pollyannish, like everything's wonderful. Believe me, if you knew me personally, most of the time, I'm freaking depressed and down. But I try, like I make an effort to try to see both sides. And I try to, if everything looks terrible, I try to look for the positive side. I try to get some balance. And again, if you knew me personally, if you hung out with me, you'd be saying, Mike, you're the most negative guy I ever saw. But I try, man. So I don't get it. It's always doom and gloom and it's horrible and everything is terrible. But you know what? When I see stuff like that, I mean, it just makes me think like these people are going to be wrong. I just hope the other thing doesn't happen. The thing I talked about earlier. I mean, that's a serious bad thing. And for that, you do need a bunker. But all this financial stuff, believe me, folks, believe me when I tell you this. It's all going to pass and it's all going to get better. Okay, this is not North Korea. This is basically a free economy where people strive and there's innovation and one generation tries to improve on the next. And I mean, it's going to work out. As long as the other thing doesn't happen. That's it for my rant for today. Have a good one. Bye.